Fitzpatrick is stonewalled. He quits the FBI in 1986. Meanwhile, Whitey Bulger becomes more involved in Boston's drug trade. Valhalla crewman John McIntyre had experience as a marijuana smuggler. Under Bulger's interrogation, McIntyre yielded names and contacts, helping Bulger extend his reach. Street corner deals attract a new kind of criminal to Southie, much to the disgust of old-school gangsters like Pat Nee.
Lowlifes. A lot of them were users. All of a sudden, they're making a ton of money. And when they got arrested, all of a sudden, they want forgiveness. And I'm sorry, and who can I put in jail instead of me?
Bulger has made a crucial mistake. The drug trade leaves him vulnerable to dealers who turn squealers. It also makes him a target for a second federal agency, the DEA. If the DEA can link Bulger to drugs, his informant status may not protect him. In the early 1990s, after 15 years of murder and extortion under FBI protection, the tide is finally about to turn against James Whitey Bulger. In 1990, Boston's Irish gang boss James Whitey Bulger is starting to feel the pinch. For years, he has secretly been protected from the law, courtesy of 2 FBI agents. But now the DEA is beginning to close in. Drug enforcement agents find a South Boston street dealer with a story to tell. He's lost over $100,000 in a coke buy gone wrong, and it leaves him unable to pay Whitey Bulger. Fearing for his life, the dealer begins to talk. In August 1990, the DEA busts over 50 Bulger associates. In an instant, Whitey's drug ring is smashed, but Bulger remains free. FBI maneuvering keeps Bulger out of the DEA's case. Agent John Connolly continues to argue that Bulger is a valuable source on the mafia, but the pretext is wearing thin.
As you look over all those reports, they provided a lot of gossip about the mafia, but it was mainly stuff like, so-and-so's going to this wedding, or, Joey's brother opened a restaurant on Hanover Street.
Since the mid-'80s, the FBI has scored a string of major Boston mafia busts, all without significant information from Bulger.
I think the record would suggest that James Whitey Bulger did not give significant value to help dismantle the organized crime in Massachusetts. He gave some information that he thought would potentially be helpful to him, more helpful to him than helpful to law enforcement.
With Connolly's help, Bulger has successfully fooled the FBI into protecting him for over 15 years. But in December 1990, John Connolly reaches retirement age. With Connolly's departure, Bulger's informant status is terminated, just as the law is closing in. Federal prosecutors and the Massachusetts State Police build a case that links Bulger and Flemmi to extortion and money laundering. In January 1995, the cops pounce. Flemmi is arrested. A colleague of Connolly mentions plans for the bust to the former agent. Connolly wastes no time in tipping Bulger off. As Flemmi goes to jail, James Whitey Bulger goes on the run. During Flemmi's trial in 1997, the news breaks that Bulger and Flemmi are both FBI informants. The reports shake Kevin Weeks to the core.
In the last 20, 25 years of my life has been a lie. And the person that I trusted the most and I respected the most is doing everything that he preached against.
Kevin Weeks is finally arrested in 1999. It takes him 2 weeks before he gives information on Whitey Bulger. Weeks is breaking his own gang ethics, but he feels justified.
It was a painful decision in the sense that I was still loyal But then I started getting mad because, you know, we killed people for being informants.
Weeks' testimony reveals the full brutal extent of Bulger's crimes. As the remains of Bulger's victims are recovered, investigators like Robert Fitzpatrick and Tom Foley are finally vindicated.
It wasn't until we started pulling the bones out of the ground and showing the bodies of their victims did some people take a step back and all of a sudden at that point say, okay. It finally started registering with people what we were dealing with.
John Morris is now a federal witness. In return for immunity, he rats on John Connolly, his co-conspirator.
I am innocent of the malicious charges that have been leveled against me in this case.
Connolly's tip-offs link him to at least 3 murders, including that of informant Brian Halloran. But in the end, Connolly is jailed for 10 years for racketeering, obstruction of justice, and lying to an FBI agent. True to his Southie roots, Connolly has stuck by his friend Bulger.
His relationship with Whitey grew over the years until he became a member of the gang. I mean, he had no scruples about telling Whitey anything. He couldn't draw a distinction between his role as an FBI agent, a law enforcement officer, and his role as a friend of the Bulger family.
In 2003, Whitey's brother, Billy Bulger, appears before the House Committee on Government Reform, a congressional watchdog that investigates federal wrongdoing. Before the panel, Billy falters.
Mr. Bulger, what is it that you thought your brother did for a living?
For the most part, I had the feeling that he was in the business of gaming and whatever. It was vague to me, but I didn't think of it for a long while.
Unable to explain how much he did or did not know of his brother's activities, he retires from public life. Today, Boston is counting the cost of the Bulger years. The Irish-American community terrorized. A city's faith in its public servants compromised. The reputation of America's premier law agency tarnished. After serving various terms in jail, Pat Nee has few regrets for his life of crime.
I love being a criminal, and I do miss it. My regrets are few. I regret not killing Whitey when I had the chance. And of course I regret getting caught for anything. Other than that, I just wish I had made more money and stashed it. But I didn't.
Kevin Weeks admitted participation in 5 murders, but served a reduced sentence in return for his cooperation.
If I saw Jim Bulger today walking down the street, I'd keep on walking. I mean, as far as I look at it, it's the FBI's problem. They created him. They allowed him to do what he was doing. So let them be the ones to catch him.
The feds are still searching. James Whitey Bulger is number 2 on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, just behind Osama bin Laden. But the clues are few. A macabre ring, a few notebooks, and a fake Irish passport are among the few artifacts Bulger left behind. Slim leads for a global manhunt. So far, James Whitey Bulger remains at large.